I'm 81 years old, and my husband went to the bank every Tuesday for 38 years. I never asked why. I thought I didn't need to. We were married, after all. He died on a Tuesday morning, and a week later I found a key taped inside a filing cabinet. That key opened a box that had nothing to do with money. It was filled with letters I was never meant to see, letters that explained where part of my husband went every week and why our marriage was quieter than I ever understood. I didn't scream when I read them. I just sat there, realizing how easy it is to live beside someone for decades and still not truly know them. I'm 81 years old now, and I've been a widow for just over 3 years. There are mornings when I still wake up and reach for the other side of the bed before I remember there's no one there anymore. My husband, Harold, went to the bank every Tuesday for 38 years. I thought I knew why. I was wrong, and when I finally found out, I felt something inside me go completely still. I'm telling this now because I don't have many years left, and because this story doesn't belong to me anymore. It belongs to whoever is willing to listen quietly without rushing past it. These days, my life is small. I live in the same house we bought in 1972. The walls know my shape. The floor creaks in the same places. Most afternoons are silent except for the refrigerator humming and the clock in the kitchen ticking a little too loudly. Time makes itself known when you're alone. I spend a lot of time thinking about how certain things can sit right in front of you for decades, unnoticed, not hidden, just unquestioned. Harold and I met when I was 23. He was 27. We married quickly, not because of romance, exactly, but because it made sense. He was steady, I was practical. Love, we believed, would grow if we did the right things. And it did, in its own way. He worked in insurance, not a glamorous job, but it paid the bills. I stayed home when our 2 children were young, then worked part-time at the library once they were in school. We weren't unhappy. We weren't passionate either. We were busy. Harold liked routines. He liked order. He liked knowing where he was supposed to be. Every Tuesday morning, without fail, he put on his brown jacket, picked up his keys, and said, "I'm heading to the bank." Same words, same time, same gentle nod goodbye. It never struck me as strange. Married life is built on habits. You stop examining them because examining everything would exhaust you. Sometimes he'd bring home a receipt and set it on the counter. Sometimes he wouldn't. I didn't ask. We had a joint account. I trusted him. Trust wasn't something I thought about. It was just there, like furniture. The kids grew up. One moved across the country. The other stayed closer but busy with his own life. Harold and I aged quietly. We ate dinner in front of the television more often than at the table. Conversations became shorter. Not colder, just thinner. On Tuesday mornings, sometimes I waved from the sink while washing dishes. Sometimes I was already out running errands myself. Sometimes I forgot what day it was entirely. 38 years is a long time, long enough for something to become invisible. Looking back now, I can see the small clues. How he never missed a Tuesday even when he had the flu, how he refused to reschedule vacations that fell on a Tuesday, or insisted on finding a bank branch wherever we traveled, how he became irritated if something delayed him that morning. At the time, I told myself it was just how he was. People don't realize how easy it is to not ask questions when life feels stable. Curiosity feels unnecessary. You assume you'll have time later, if it ever matters. Harold got sick quickly. That's the truth of it. One spring, he was fine. By winter, he wasn't. Pancreatic cancer doesn't announce itself politely. It moves fast and doesn't apologize. I became his caretaker without ever thinking of myself as one. I drove him to appointments. I cooked softer foods. I helped him shower when he was too weak. We didn't talk about the past much. We talked about logistics, pills, schedules, insurance forms. He died on a Tuesday morning. I noticed that afterward. I don't know why that detail lodged itself in me, but it did. After the funeral, after the casseroles stopped arriving, after people returned to their own lives, I was left with paperwork. Harold had always handled the finances. I'd paid bills when needed, but the deeper things were his territory. One afternoon, going through a filing cabinet, I found a small envelope taped to the inside back panel. It had my name on it, written in his careful handwriting. Inside was a key and a slip of paper with the address of the bank, not the main branch we used, a smaller one downtown. I remember sitting on the floor, holding that key, feeling confused, but not alarmed, not yet. The next Tuesday, I drove to the bank. The woman at the counter looked at the key, then at her screen, then at me. She spoke kindly, quietly, as if she'd been trained for this moment. She led me to a small room in the back, brought a box, and left me alone. Inside were letters, dozens of them, some yellowed with age, some still crisp, all written in Harold's handwriting, all addressed to the same person, a woman named Ruth. I sat there for a long time before I opened the first one. I remember thinking how strange it was that my hands were so steady. The letters were not explicit. They were not romantic in the way movies teach you to expect. They were careful, thoughtful, intimate in a quiet way. He wrote about his week, about the kids, about his worries, about feeling unseen, about feeling needed when he was with her. Ruth was someone he'd known before me, a woman he'd loved once, but never married. Life had pulled them apart. Then, decades later, they found each other again by accident. He never left me. He never planned to. That much was clear. But every Tuesday, for 38 years, he went to the bank to deposit letters, to withdraw hers, to sit in that quiet room and feel, for a little while, like someone was really listening. I didn't cry in the bank. I didn't scream. I felt frozen, exactly as the title of this story suggests, like my body had shut something down to protect itself. On the drive home, I remember noticing how green the trees were, how normal the traffic felt. The world hadn't shifted, only I had. At home, I laid the letters out on the dining table. I read them slowly, over days. I learned things about my husband that I had never known, not because he hid them aggressively, but because I hadn't asked. I realized how many conversations we'd postponed, how often I'd chosen efficiency over curiosity, how easily we'd slipped into parallel lives under the same roof. He loved me, I believe that, but he also needed something I didn't give him, and maybe I needed something I didn't ask for. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal, it was the understanding. Nothing about our life together was false, but it wasn't complete either. I can't fix that now. He's gone. Ruth, I later learned, died years before him. Their letters ended eventually, but his Tuesday visits didn't. Habit has a way of outliving purpose. Some things, once you see them, you can't unsee. You start replaying moments differently. The silences, the missed questions, the times you assumed love was something that ran on its own if you didn't interfere. I don't hate him. I don't even feel angry most days. What I feel is the weight of time, of how much of it we spent assuming there would be more. People talk about regret like it's dramatic, like it arrives all at once. It doesn't. It settles in quietly, like dust, until one day you notice it's everywhere. If I'm honest, I think part of me always knew something was missing. I just didn't think it mattered enough to examine. Life felt busy. The kids needed things. Work needed attention. Dinner needed to be made. Presence is easy to delay. You tell yourself you'll be more attentive later, when things calm down, when there's time. Time doesn't calm down, it just runs out. If you're listening to this and thinking of someone you haven't really spoken to in a while, I won't tell you what to do. I don't believe in instructions at my age, but I will say this: silence grows faster than you think. Ask questions while the answers are still alive. These days, on Tuesdays, I sit by the window in the morning. I watch people come and go. I think about how many lives are moving alongside each other without touching. I loved my husband. I still do. I just wish we had been braver with each other while we had the chance. I'm not looking for forgiveness. I'm not offering a lesson. I'm just telling the truth, finally, because the truth doesn't need me anymore. If this meant something to you, you can sit with it for a while. That's enough. I don't have much time left. I can feel that. But I have this story, and now so do you.